Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt invisible to someone you once gave everything to? You wake up in the morning, and the first thought isn't about your plans, your goals, your joy. It's about whether he's thinking of you. That constant tug in your chest, that aching question, does he miss me? And what hurts more isn't just that he may not, it's that deep down, you fear he may have taken you for granted in the first place. Now here's the truth most people don't realize: making someone miss you isn't about playing a cold game of manipulation. It's about reconnecting with your value in such a way that the other person can't help but feel the loss of it. The only way he realizes what he's missing is when you stop giving him the version of you that asked for crumbs and start embodying the version of you that deserves the whole feast. That's when he feels it deeply. That's when he remembers. That's when the regret sets in. Let's slow down and really talk about this idea of space, because this is the one thing people often misunderstand when it comes to relationships. When you care about someone, your natural instinct is to hold on tighter. You want to text them more, call them more, show them how much you care, remind them constantly that you're there. It feels safe to do that, because at least then you know you're not being forgotten. But here's the irony: the more you overfill someone's world with your presence, the less they value it. Think about anything in life when it's always there, when it's too accessible, when you can have it at any time. You stop noticing it. It blends into the background like wallpaper. You only notice wallpaper when it's taken down, when the room suddenly feels bare. That's what space does in a relationship. It takes down the wallpaper and makes the absence impossible to ignore. Space isn't punishment, and it isn't manipulation. It's not about cutting someone off to make them suffer. It's about allowing the natural psychology of desire to work. Human beings are wired to crave what they don't have in abundance. If you give him every moment, every thought, every gesture, you flood the system. But when you step back, when you give him the gift of your silence, your absence, your non-availability, you reintroduce scarcity. Scarcity is what makes someone suddenly realize how valuable something always was. Think of the times in your own life when you only truly appreciated someone after they weren't there. Maybe it was a friend who moved away, a parent who you lost, or even a colleague who left the workplace. While they were there, it was easy to overlook the subtle ways they added to your world. But the moment they weren't there, the hole they left behind was undeniable. That's the exact effect space creates in romance. When you step back, he's forced to confront that empty space where your energy used to live. What most people don't understand is that this absence doesn't just create longing, it creates contrast. Contrast is powerful. Imagine eating the same food every single day. After a while, no matter how much you liked it at the beginning, it starts to taste bland. Now imagine that food being taken away. Suddenly, even the memory of it starts to feel richer, more flavorful. That's what absence does. It enhances the contrast between life with you and life without you. Without contrast, people don't notice change. With contrast, every detail becomes sharper. Here's another layer. Space also resets dynamics. If things ended badly, or if he started taking you for granted, pulling away gives him a chance to feel the consequences of his behavior. People often want to skip this step. They want to stay close, to explain, to talk him into seeing what he lost. But explaining rarely works, because words don't have the same power as experience. When he experiences life without you, when he doesn't hear your voice every day, when your laughter isn't echoing in his world, that experience teaches him more than any argument ever could. It teaches him what life is missing. Now, the hard part about space is that it feels counterintuitive. Your heart says, if I'm away, he'll forget me. If I don't call, he won't think of me. But the reality is the opposite. Constant presence breeds complacency, distance sparks curiosity, and curiosity is the seed of desire. The question in his mind, where is she? What is she doing? Who is she with? Is far more powerful than any speech you could give him about missing you. It's that unknown that keeps him awake at night. There's also a practical benefit to creating space. It gives you time to remember yourself. When you're constantly chasing someone, your energy becomes consumed by them. Every thought, every plan, every choice is colored by their reaction. But when you step back, You reclaim your life. You start investing in your hobbies again, your friendships, your career, your passions. You stop orbiting around him and return to being the center of your own universe. That shift is magnetic because not only does it make him notice your absence, it also makes him realize that you're not waiting in the corner with your life on pause. You're moving forward. And that movement makes him feel like he could be left behind. Space also has a boundary testing element. If he genuinely cares, your absence will pull him toward you. If he doesn't, your absence will expose that truth quickly. Either way, you win. You either spark the longing that reminds him what you mean to him, or you free yourself from someone who never truly valued you. That's the clarity that space provides. Without it, you're stuck in a loop of mixed signals and half-hearted gestures. With it, you get to see reality play out. So when we talk about space, it's not just a tactic, it's an education for both of you. For him, it's the lesson that you're not always going to be there to cushion his ego, to fill the silence, to keep things comfortable. For you, it's the lesson that your value doesn't decrease just because someone isn't currently acknowledging it. Your value exists whether or not it's recognized, and the courage to step back and honor that value is what makes the difference. Space, then, is less about making him miss you and more about making you remember yourself. And in remembering yourself, you create the very conditions that make missing you inevitable. Because what he misses most deeply isn't just your presence, it's the unique energy, joy, and strength you bring into his world. When you pull that back, you remind him of the truth he may have ignored. Life is infinitely better with you in it, and unbearably quieter without you. Energy is one of the most underestimated forces in attraction and relationships. People think it's about words, actions, gifts, or timing, but in reality, it's the energy you bring into someone's life that creates the strongest pull. When your energy is pouring into a person constantly, whether they've earned it or not, they stop noticing it. It becomes the background noise of their world. The way to make someone truly miss you isn't about begging or pleading. It's about reclaiming your energy and directing it toward places that nourish you, not deplete you. That is what makes someone feel the difference in a way that words never can. When you're fixated on another person, even if you're not texting them, they can sense it. It shows up in subtle ways, in the way you answer when they finally do call, in how quickly you drop your plans to be available, in the nervousness you carry when you're around them. That energy communicates, my world revolves around you. At first, it might feel flattering to someone, but over time, it starts to feel heavy. It sends the message that you have nothing else going on, that your happiness is dependent on them, and dependency never feels magnetic. Attraction is sparked by independence, by the sense that you have your own current that others get swept into, not that you're clinging to theirs. Think of energy as a currency. Every day you wake up with a certain amount of it. Where you spend it determines how rich or poor you feel by the end of the day. If all of it is spent obsessing over one person, checking their social media, replaying conversations in your mind, worrying about what they're thinking, you bankrupt yourself emotionally. But when you redirect that same energy toward things that grow you, working on your health, advancing in your career, strengthening friendships, exploring passions, you not only enrich your own life, but you naturally become more attractive. Because now you're living from a place of abundance, not scarcity, and abundance draws people in. Energy also shifts how others perceive you. When your energy is desperate or needy, it creates pressure. That pressure makes people pull back. But when your energy is vibrant, playful, calm, or confident, it feels light. People are drawn to that kind of energy without even realizing why. It's why some people can walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying a word. They radiate an energy that others want to be close to. That energy is cultivated by how much you invest in yourself, not by how much you chase someone else. Another important part of energy is where you're focusing it mentally. If your thoughts are always on him, then even your body language will reflect that. Your tone of voice, the way you carry yourself, even the pauses in your speech will betray that you're not fully present in your own life. But when your mind is filled with your own goals, your own ideas, your own excitement about what you're building, then your body naturally communicates confidence. It's in the way you walk, the way you smile, The way you make eye contact, that kind of energy is unforgettable. It leaves an imprint long after the conversation ends. The beauty of reclaiming your energy is that it creates a gap when someone was used to receiving all of it, and suddenly it's no longer directed at them. They feel the absence immediately. They notice that your attention is no longer their comfort zone. They wonder where it went. That wondering is what makes them miss you. And here's the key. It's not because you forced them to miss you, but because you reminded them that your energy is valuable. And it doesn't flow endlessly toward people who don't appreciate it. Reclaiming your energy also means practicing boundaries. Boundaries are simply where your energy stops and another person's begins. Without them, you're constantly giving away too much, hoping that if you give enough, the other person will reciprocate. But healthy boundaries mean your energy is offered, not drained. You choose when, how, and to whom you give it. That choice makes it precious, and people miss what is precious. They don't miss what is always there, on demand. Another truth is that energy is contagious if you're constantly anxious, sad, or drained because of how you're handling the relationship. He will begin to associate you with those feelings. But if you're energized, joyful, and grounded, then being around you feels good. When you reclaim your energy, you shift the entire emotional association. You go from being the person who represents stress to being the person whose absence feels like a void of light. And that shift is what makes someone not only miss you, but crave being back in your world. Ultimately, energy is what people fall in love with. Looks fade, words can be forgotten, but the way someone feels in your presence, that energy, sticks with them. If you want to be missed deeply, don't ask how to get into his head. Ask how to redirect your energy so powerfully into your own life that he feels the loss of it. Because when you stop pouring all of yourself into one person and start investing in yourself, the energy you radiate becomes irresistible. And ironically, that's when the person who once took it for granted starts to realize just how much they depended on it. Mystery has always been one of the most powerful forces in attraction, yet it is often the first thing people lose when they fall into routine with someone. In the beginning, curiosity drives everything, every word, every gesture. Every new piece of information feels like a discovery. You hang on to the little details because you don't know everything yet. That curiosity creates anticipation, and anticipation is the heartbeat of desire. But when a person feels like they have fully mapped you out, when there is nothing left to uncover, desire begins to fade. Not because you are any less interesting, but because the element of discovery is gone. Reintroducing mystery is about awakening that curiosity again and reminding someone that they never had all of you, that there are parts of your life and your soul that remain unexplored. Mystery is not about playing games or being deliberately secretive in a manipulative way. It's about living a life that is rich, dynamic, and expansive enough that not everyone gets full access to it. When someone believes they know everything about you, they stop asking questions. But when they sense there are layers to you, layers they haven't seen yet, they lean in. They listen harder. They notice more. That's the power of mystery. It makes people invest more deeply because they feel there's more to discover. One of the ways mystery works is through unpredictability. When every action you take is predictable, when your responses are always the same, when your patterns never shift, there's nothing stimulating about the interaction. But when you occasionally surprise someone, not with dramatic gestures, but with small moments of unpredictability, you create a spark. It could be as simple as saying no to an invitation you would normally always accept, or trying something new that they never expected from you. That unpredictability breaks the monotony and reminds them that they don't have you figured out. And when they don't have you figured out, they can't stop thinking about you. Another element of mystery is growth. When you are constantly growing, you naturally become mysterious because who you were yesterday isn't the exact same as who you are today. If you're reading new books, learning new skills, traveling to new places, or even shifting the way you think about the world, you create a sense of evolution. People miss what they feel is slipping away from them, and when you're growing, they realize that if they don't pay attention, they'll miss out on the new version of you that is emerging. Growth makes them curious about what they don't yet know about you, even if they thought they knew everything before. Mystery also lies in how much you reveal. Oversharing every thought, every feeling, every move may feel like closeness, but it often robs the connection of depth. Think about a great book. You don't want the author to give away the ending in the first chapter. You want the story to unfold, page by page. Relationships are the same. When you hold some of yourself back, not in dishonesty, but in timing, you give the other person something to look forward to discovering. That gradual revelation creates anticipation, and anticipation is what makes someone miss you when you're not around. It's important to understand that mystery doesn't mean creating distance by disappearing. It means living in such a way that your presence is always slightly larger than what they can fully grasp. It means being interesting enough that someone feels excited by your company, but also wondering about you when you're not there. That wondering is where longing begins. When someone wonders what you're doing, who you're with, what you're thinking, they create their own stories in their head. Those stories magnify their feelings. Mystery also has a way of raising value. What is rare is valued more highly than what is common. When everything about you is accessible, when there are no boundaries around your time, energy, or attention, you unintentionally make yourself common in their eyes. But when you create an aura of selectivity, when not everyone has full access to your time, when your life has dimensions outside of them, you become rare, and people miss what is rare more intensely than what is always available. Another overlooked element of mystery is emotional variety. If every interaction you have with someone feels the same, it becomes flat. But when you bring different sides of yourself to the table, sometimes playful, sometimes reflective, sometimes ambitious, sometimes laid back, you keep them intrigued. They never know which version of you they'll encounter, and that unpredictability makes every interaction memorable. What's remembered is what's missed. Mystery ultimately is about reminding someone that you are not a finished product they've fully consumed. You are a constantly unfolding story, and if they're not paying attention, they'll miss the chapters. And when they realize they're missing those chapters, when they feel left out of the evolution of your life, that's when longing takes hold. It's not about being distant or unavailable. It's about living so fully and expansively that they are compelled to step closer, to watch more carefully, to reinvest in discovering you all over again. Standards are the invisible framework that determine how people treat you, how they value you, and ultimately, how they miss you when you're gone. Too often, people confuse standards with demands. Demands are when you try to force someone to behave a certain way, while standards are the rules you live by for yourself. They are the unspoken guidelines that say, this is what I will accept, and this is what I won't. And the power of standards is that they don't require long speeches or constant reminders. They reveal themselves through your actions. When someone experiences your standards, they realize that being in your life is a privilege, not a right. That realization is what creates longing when you're not around. Think about the times when you lowered your standards for someone. You accepted last-minute plans, you tolerated disrespectful behavior, you gave endless second chances. In those moments, your heart may have convinced you that being flexible was the way to keep them close. But the truth is, every time you lowered your bar, you taught them that they could give you less and still keep you. What people don't consciously recognize, they subconsciously learn. And once they learn they can treat you with minimal effort, they rarely step up on their own. Standards are the antidote to this cycle. When you hold them high, people either rise to meet them or they fall away. And the ones who fall away are often the same ones who, in time, come back realizing just how much they lost. Standards are not about perfection, they're about clarity. They communicate clearly that your time, your body, your mind, and your heart are not for those who treat them carelessly. When you don't chase someone who gives you mixed signals, you're enforcing a standard. When you refuse to engage in disrespectful arguments, you're enforcing a standard. When you choose to walk away instead of settling for half effort, you're enforcing a standard. And here's what happens, people remember that. Even if they don't admit it in the moment, even if they act indifferent, later when they meet someone who accepts far less, they realize the difference. They compare. And comparison always magnifies what's missing. The beauty of standards is that they create attraction through respect. Anyone can make someone laugh, Anyone can spark initial chemistry, but lasting attraction requires respect. And respect only grows in the presence of standards. When someone respects you, they don't just desire you in the moment, they miss you when you're gone. Because what they crave isn't just the good times, but the way being with you made them want to be better. Standards elevate people. They force someone to reflect on their own behavior and ask, am I enough to be in her world? That reflection is uncomfortable, but it's also magnetic because deep down, people are drawn to what challenges them to grow. Another powerful element of standards is scarcity. When you don't give your attention freely to anyone who asks for it, when you're selective about who gets close to you, your presence becomes rare. And what is rare is always valued more than what is common. If someone knows they can treat you poorly and still have access to you, your value decreases in their eyes. But if they know that mistreating you means losing you, your value skyrockets. That's when missing you becomes inevitable because they know replacing you isn't easy. Not because of superficial traits, but because of the strength and dignity your standards represent. Living with standards also transforms your energy. When you accept less than you deserve, you carry frustration, resentment, and disappointment, even if you don't voice it. That energy weighs you down. But when you enforce standards, you carry pride, self-respect, and confidence. That energy is magnetic. People are drawn to it, and when they lose access to it, they feel the gap intensely. They don't just miss your smile or your voice, they miss the way your presence made them step into a higher version of themselves. There's also a long-term effect that standards create memory. Long after someone has left your life, they will remember the way you carried yourself. They will remember that you didn't tolerate disrespect, that you required effort, that you valued yourself enough not to settle. And those memories haunt people in the best way. When they encounter others who accept poor treatment, when they find themselves in relationships where effort isn't required, they think of you. They remember the standard you held, and in that comparison, they feel the loss. Ultimately, standards are not about pushing someone away. They're about drawing the right behavior closer. They're not about scaring someone into missing you, but about creating a framework where the only option is to either rise or lose you. And when someone loses you because they couldn't meet your standards, it doesn't end there. Because later, in quiet moments, when they measure the emptiness against what they once had, they realize that what they miss most isn't just the person. It's the strength, the dignity, and the unshakable self-worth that your standards embodied. That is what makes you unforgettable. Joy is one of the most magnetic forces you can ever embody. When you think about the people you miss most in life, it's rarely because they were serious all the time, or because they gave lectures, or because they were constantly available. You miss the way they made you feel. You miss the laughter, the lightness, the spark of happiness that came simply from being around them. Joy has a way of leaving an imprint on people's hearts that lingers long after the moment has passed. And when someone realizes that the joy you brought into their world is gone, the absence feels heavier than almost anything else. What's fascinating about joy is that it isn't dependent on another person. Many people make the mistake of believing that joy comes from being with someone, from receiving their attention, or from having their approval. But that's not joy. That's dependency disguised as happiness. True joy is generated from within, from living in alignment with your passions, your values, and your authentic self. When you cultivate joy on your own, you stop needing someone else to provide it. And ironically, that is when others start craving your presence more than ever. Because you're no longer showing up with neediness, you're showing up with radiance. Joy is contagious. Think of the last time you were around someone who was genuinely enjoying their life. Not pretending, not forcing a smile, but truly immersed in their own passions and excitement. Their energy made you feel lighter just by being in their presence. That's what people miss when you're gone. Not just the person, but the feeling they had when they were around you. If your joy is authentic, it becomes a drug to those who experience it, and once it's gone, they'll search for it again. The absence of joy, on the other hand, creates heaviness. If someone only associates you with sadness, complaints, or stress, they won't miss you when you're not around. They'll feel relief. That's why it's so important to protect and cultivate your joy, not just for yourself, but also for the energy you bring into every interaction. When someone associates you with light, laughter, and positive energy, they will feel your absence more profoundly than they ever admit. Another dimension of joy is self-expression. When you're fully yourself, dancing without worrying how you look, laughing at your own jokes, diving into your passions without apology, you exude a freedom that many people secretly long for. They may not even have that freedom themselves. So being around you becomes intoxicating. It shows them what life could feel like if they allowed themselves the same level of self-expression. And when you step back, when you remove that influence, they feel the void. They don't just miss you, they miss the version of themselves that they got to be when they were with you. Joy also has a way of softening the edges of memory. Even after conflict, even after mistakes, what lingers in people's minds is how you made them feel during the best moments. They might not recall every detail of your conversations, but they remember the laughter at midnight, the playful teasing, the small adventures. Those moments become emotional anchors. When they're no longer there, when life feels quieter and less colorful, that's when missing you becomes inevitable. Living joyfully also communicates strength. It tells the world, I don't need anyone to create my happiness. That independence is incredibly attractive. It removes pressure from the dynamic and replaces it with magnetism. Instead of chasing someone's attention, you're simply glowing in your own lane, and people naturally want to be part of that glow. And when they no longer have access to it, they feel as though they've lost a source of light in their life. That loss is what makes them remember, compare, and yearn for what they once had. Cultivating joy requires intention. It's about filling your life with things that light you up, hobbies that excite you, friendships that uplift you, goals that challenge you. It's about creating moments of laughter and fun even when life feels heavy. The more you infuse your days with joy, the more you embody a presence that others can't ignore. And when you take that presence away, when the laughter stops echoing in someone's life, they realize that no one else quite fills that space. Joy then is not just an emotion, it's a legacy. It's what people remember about you, what they crave when you're gone, and what they can't easily replace. And when someone realizes they once had a source of joy in their life and let it slip through their fingers, the ache of that realization makes them miss you more deeply than words could ever express. Self-respect is the foundation of how you are treated, valued, and remembered in any relationship. Without it, everything else crumbles. You can be beautiful, funny, intelligent, and giving, but if you do not respect yourself, others eventually stop respecting you too. And once that happens, it becomes nearly impossible for them to miss you when you're gone, because in their minds, they never had to work to keep you. They knew you would stay regardless of how they behaved. Self-respect is what disrupts that dynamic. It's what makes someone stop, reflect, and realize what they've lost when you're no longer there. Many people confuse self-respect with arrogance or coldness, but it is neither. Self-respect is quiet strength. It's the decision to never abandon yourself in the pursuit of another person. It's choosing not to tolerate behavior that diminishes you, even if your heart desperately wants to stay. It's the ability to walk away from situations that hurt you, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself enough to stop accepting less than you deserve. That decision is powerful, and it leaves an imprint on people. Long after you've walked away, they remember the strength it took, and they compare it to the easy acceptance they find elsewhere. That comparison makes your absence echo louder. When you lack self-respect, you compromise too much. You reply to messages that come hours late. You make excuses for someone's inconsistency. You accept being treated as an option instead of a priority. In the moment, it feels like love. You tell yourself, if I just hold on, if I just forgive again, maybe things will change. But the hidden message being communicated is that your boundaries are flexible, your needs don't matter, and your worth is negotiable. And once someone learns that, they stop valuing you. They don't miss what is always available. They only miss what they believe is rare, and rarity comes from the courage to walk away when you're not valued. Self-respect creates standards that enforce themselves. You don't have to constantly explain what you expect, your actions reveal it. When someone treats you poorly and you withdraw your time, your attention, and your energy, That action speaks louder than any lecture. It tells them clearly, this is not acceptable in my world. People may not appreciate it immediately, but they always remember it. And later, when they are surrounded by people who accept far less, they feel the difference. They realize they once had someone whose self-respect set them apart, and they feel the weight of that loss. Another reason self-respect is unforgettable is that it inspires admiration. Even if someone doesn't say it out loud, they admire the person who has the courage to stand tall and refuse mistreatment. It might frustrate them in the moment, but deep down, it leaves an impression. Respect is attractive, and when you respect yourself, it demands respect from others. That demand doesn't disappear when you're gone. It lingers. It becomes a standard they measure others against, often without even realizing it. Self-respect also changes the energy you carry. When you abandon yourself for someone else, you carry bitterness, resentment, and insecurity. That energy pushes people away. But when you honor yourself, when you protect your dignity, you carry confidence and calm. That energy pulls people in. And when they lose access to it, they feel it in a profound way. It's not just the conversations or the moments they miss. It's the atmosphere of strength and dignity that surrounded you. That atmosphere is not easily replicated, which makes your absence sting even more. There's also a long-term effect to self-respect. People may forget your words, they may even forget certain actions, but they never forget how you carried yourself. They remember whether you stayed true to yourself or whether you gave yourself away cheaply. And when someone who once had access to you realizes that you had the self-respect to walk away when they failed to value you, that realization follows them. It becomes a mirror they can't escape. Every time they settle for someone who lacks that same self-respect, they feel the gap between what they have and what they lost. What makes self-respect so powerful is that it's not about making someone miss you. It's about ensuring that even if they don't, you are still whole. You don't live in fear of being forgotten because your worth doesn't depend on their recognition. And ironically, it's that very strength, that unshakable sense of self, that makes you unforgettable. People don't miss what clings to them. They miss what had the courage to let go and still shine. Self-respect is that courage. And once someone has experienced it, they carry the memory of it long after you're gone. So, when we ask the question, how do you make someone miss you deeply and want you back? The real answer is not found in chasing, pleading, or trying to convince them of your worth. It lies in stepping into the version of yourself that's impossible to forget. Space reminds them of the silence your presence used to fill. Energy reclaims your power and shows them the light they no longer get to stand in. Mystery reawakens their curiosity and reminds them they never truly had all of you. Standards elevate the way they see you and teach them that access to you is earned, not given. Joy imprints itself in their memory and leaves them craving the feeling only you brought into their world. And self-respect is the thread that weaves it all together. The undeniable force that makes you unforgettable even in your absence. When you live this way, you stop asking, will he miss me? Because the answer becomes obvious. You create a life so vibrant, so dignified, so magnetic that missing you isn't just likely, it's inevitable. And whether he comes back or not, you'll already have won, because the greatest outcome isn't him realizing your value. It's you realizing it first and never lowering it again.